There has never been a better time to be in the wellness industry. People are searching for deeper healing, they're looking for connection, they're more open to intuition, energy work, and complementary therapies more than ever before. And yet, I've never seen so many gifted practitioners questioning themselves. They wonder if they're good enough, they wait until they feel more confident, they keep putting off the very work that they know instinctively that they're here to do. So, what's really holding them back? Today's conversation explores exactly that. My guest is Lawrence Ellyard, founder of the International Institute for Complementary Therapists, and someone who has spent more than 3 decades helping to shape the future of our profession. Through his work with practitioners across more than 35 countries, he has a front row seat to what separates those who simply practice from those who become trusted leaders. Together, we explore why confidence always follows courage, how to build credibility without losing authenticity, what trusting your intuition actually looks like in business and life, and why the practitioners who create the greatest impact all have one thing in common. They're driven by contribution, not recognition. Lawrence also shares the remarkable story of how one unexpected Reiki treatment changed the direction of his life, the lessons he took away from spending time with Sir Richard Branson, and why the future of our industry belongs to those who are willing to stay curious, keep learning, and keep showing up. If you've ever felt the call to make a bigger impact but wondered whether you're truly ready, this conversation will remind you that the world doesn't need a perfect practitioner, it needs an authentic one. So let's dive in. Lawrence, welcome to Connecting to Spirit podcast. Such a pleasure to have you here. I've been really looking forward to having a chat with you and finding out more about the big vision that you've got for the wellness industry. I know you're on a huge journey, and I thought for my podcast listeners, it might be great to just start at the beginning. So tell us a little bit about what got you started in this industry in the first place and where you began.
Yeah, well, I think one of the first modalities I actually experienced outside of meditation, which I started many years before, but I was sort of in my late teens and I was at a personal development workshop, and there was this gentleman laying his hands on somebody in the break of this workshop, and I was like, "What's that?" Anyway, so we were doing all this intensive mental type work, process work and so forth. So I had a bit of a headache, probably a reaction to doing this inner work. And we had the break, and I said, "Oh, what's it do?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm doing Reiki." And I said, "Oh, what's that?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm just like transmitting energy, and it's good for healing and restoring you and whatnot." So I was like, "Well, I've got a headache, let's either."
How good it is.
So I laid down. He put his hands, just resting on my head either side, and his hands got really, really hot. And anyway, a few minutes passed. I got up and I was like, he said, "How's your head?" And I was like, "It's completely better." And so that was my first experience of Reiki. And so I thought to myself, well, this guy must be some master or teacher. He's been doing it for decades. I asked him, when did you learn this? How many years ago? And he goes, "I did a workshop last weekend." It was literally he'd like total beginner but had such a powerful effect. I was like, okay, there's something in this. So I met with, I asked, who did you learn from? And so it was one of the first Reiki teachers in Australia who I got to do my first training with, which was fortunate. And they actually had a course, I think 2 weeks later after this event. So I went straight into it and never looked back really. Like that was the first many different trainings and educations in the wellness space and in psychology and counseling and energy work and qigong and you name it. I mean, I had
black belts, I hear.
yeah, a strong background in martial arts, which I still do to this day. Yeah, so a lot of that I think informs everything else, because you do a practice long enough, and I'm I don't know, over 3 decades in that. So you start to unlearn. Actually, you learn, but you unlearn things that are not so useful for you in your life and how to better navigate situations. So yeah, that's probably the first start of that, so I think it was about 18 or 19, something like that. And then I was pursuing a career because my parents at the time, they were like, you need to get a real job and not be, a hippie. But anyway, so I was pursuing a career in art direction and graphic design. And then I had this moment where I was like, no, this isn't for me. And so I checked into a Buddhist monastery, as you do, and I lived there for about 3 years and did a lot of intensive meditation practice and a whole range of different things. So just really explored many areas over the years. Leads me to today. I guess all that informs, that's shaped who I'm becoming. I don't really see that there's ever a destination. The more you do, the more you realize there's more to learn, and hopefully.
Yeah, it's always the more I know, the less I know, isn't it? It's that, I totally agree. And I think my Reiki was very similar in that kind of, it just happened. And then once you feel that energy and you have it pass through, it's almost like, for me, I just had an itching to know more and to understand it at a deeper level. But back then, no one really knew about it. And we've really lived through a lot of resistance. And, I can see now there's a big change in that. I think, a lot of healers like you and I, or people in the wellness industry, have had to have a lot of courage to kind of stand up against, some of the resistance, or, it's not real medicine, or it's, quackery, or, and I kind of think, and especially now with AI coming into the piece, I'm really, really wondering from your experience where you see longevity as playing a part in kind of those practitioners that have kind of stood the test of time, and how we navigate through, through the trouble and uncertainty and the challenges that we face. And I guess what exciting things you see, because I guess it is mainstream now. It's not becoming mainstream. We have finally arrived at the point where it's no longer, we're no longer laughed out of the room when people tell what we do, and it's actually a nice place to be in. So what's around that?
Well, I think the wellness industry has certainly come a long way. And back when I started, and probably similar, like you said, for you you were just like, oh, that's fringe and that's, woo-woo stuff. No substance to it, right?
Yeah, and yet the experience of it is totally that. Like the experience of when we do the work, it was always such a knowing, because we'd see the results. We just didn't have the science to measure what we were doing, and what we were seeing, as in the anecdotal evidence was certainly there.
And I think, and fair call too, right? Because, unless you have a direct experience of something, it's very hard to say it's like people want to have their direct validation. I remember, teaching Reiki to a number of different medical professionals, like, MDs, doctors and whatnot. And one lady in particular, she was a real insomniac. Always have to take sleeping pills, and literally almost addicted to them, every night, having to do sleeping pills for years and years and years. And I remember her coming along to a Reiki workshop, and I just said, do the Reiki on yourself, and it can help you sleep and promote that and whatnot. She came back the next day, eyes wide open, like, I can't believe it's the first night in years where I fell asleep naturally. And ever since, she was totally fine. So simple things like that can have quite a profound and lasting effect on people. I think it's important too that, because sometimes within the wellness industry, people get very excited and they go, oh, it'll cure everything, cure cancer. And
you've got to be careful with it.
Careful, right?
Of course.
It can have profound effects, and people can have transformative experiences. I think it's important, to use a level of discernment and stay in your lane as well. We have that with the global accreditation body that I've established, 25 years or 24 years ago. We have that people that are in wellness spaces and, qualified, that they stay within them mode of practice. They don't sort of, I haven't done training this thing, I'm going to give it a go. So, so again, I think it's important that people, if we want to elevate credibility in the industry and for people to take us seriously, then it's also about making sure that people are professional and, it's a practice that's linked to their qualification and all of that, So I think that can certainly help to foster greater confidence for people who are, trying, say, natural therapies or alternative medicine as a new approach. And it's also not to say that traditional allopathic medicine's no good and you should.
I always see it as a complement rather than an alternative too. Like I kind of think, why does it have to be one or the other? And I've always kind of with my students said, let's not call it an alternative, like it's a complement to modern medicine. And, as a Reiki, I've used both Reiki and when my daughter had her appendix rupture, of course, I was using Reiki to help manage her pain because she was in excruciating pain. But oh my gosh, did I want her in surgery and did I want the anesthetic and all the medicine and the antibiotics and everything that came with it? So, and same, my husband had leukemia. And again, had he not have gone through chemotherapy treatment, and this was in the early days, I did Reiki before I got married and before I had kids. And we used a combination of both energy healing, trusting, positive, looking at the mind and how it kind of informs the body. And all of it makes a difference. But I just want to point out as well, there's something that we've seen a change with the industry where there's a lot of certifications coming out very quickly. And I've seen it in a couple of different modalities that I operate under. And I think one of the things I love about IICT, which is
International Institute for Complementary Therapists. What a long name, hey?
It is a long name.
I wish I'd chose a simple short name.
You can't go back now.
I know.
IICT is how I've always said it. But I think knowing that there's a governing body that kind of does lend to, to the credibility is important. But I want to say also that you've always been an innovative thinker. And I know that when COVID hit, we had a phone call and, we're in uncertain times. I had a lot of students that were in all different pipelines. And I don't think I actually personally got to thank you, but, where others were kind of holding back and going, no, let's just stick with what has been done in the past. You kind of took a bit of a risk and we both took a leap of faith because there was that history and the longevity of the training to lean on, which I think is important. And as we're moving forward, personal, what is it that makes us human that people can rely on? And at the same time, also knowing that we're here to test the waters and try new things. So how do you make those choices more in business when you're on the leading edge, but also we've got to maintain credibility? Do you drop into heart awareness or how do you make those choices? Have you been feeling called to learn Reiki? Not just to channel powerful healing energy, but also to awaken your intuition in the process. Now it's easier than ever. After 22 years of teaching Reiki in person, I've created a high-quality online training experience that gives you lifetime access to become a certified and accredited intuitive Reiki healer. Through Intuitive Reiki International, you'll gain the skills to step into a rewarding new career. Plus, you'll connect with a thriving community of like-minded healers and make a real difference in people's lives. If you feel the calling, don't wait. The time is now to embrace your passion and start your Reiki journey. Visit intuitivereiki.online to get started today.
Yeah, well, I think it's not so much, I think having done a lot of stuff for a lot of years, it's not like, oh, okay, now I've got to get into the zone. I feel like I can just change gears, like changing gears in a car pretty quickly. So for me, it's really like I come back to the body and is the body like uplifted or is it pushing back or, in other words, trusting intuition or your gut instinct or whatever you want to call it. So there's various ways to check if something's true or right for you, which doesn't mean it's true or right for somebody else. It's about, your physiology and your, how your body and your consciousness meet, and how we work with that. So, one recent test that I got shown by a dear friend, she said, do the swallow test. And this is a very practical part, okay, for the show where someone,
awesome.
You can all try this if you want. So you simply state something that is true for you. So I might say, my name is Lawrence Ellyard.
Yeah.
I can swallow.
Right? I'm an author.
Yeah, or whatever it is. I can
swallow.
Say, but I can say something that's completely not true. And I try to swallow, I physically can't swallow.
Wow.
Yeah. So
okay,
just
try it out. Try it out.
Yeah, all right. I'm Adolf Hitler. I can't swallow. Like my body's like, no, you're not. So I could use
Yeah,
the example then of saying, is it in my highest good or best interest to do X, Y, Z at this time, whatever it is? And again, the body will be like, yeah, that's what she needs. So you can swallow it. If you can't, then it's a clear indication that it's not the right thing. So
yeah.
you can use this. You can use your the swallow reflex as a divination tool effectively in your life.
Yeah,
decision
fantastic.
making. Because
And
what
it's always
happens,
with you.
yeah,
You don't need to go reach for cards or,
yeah, exactly. It's
crystals
with
or,
you. It's free.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
cutting body. Yeah.
So that's not a bad one to try out, because what's happening is you bypass the ego, and you're going to consciousness itself is communicating directly with your body, and it's a direct pathway, and there's other ways to do it, like with muscle testing, what form a ring,
Physiology.
can you pull it through easy or not based on the question, is your body strong, is it weak, depending. But other things too, you tune into yourself. It's that idea of like embracing for a hug, or and of like, whoa, no, this feels off. Something's not right here. So, after a while, one gets quite good at knowing what's aligned and what's not. So for me, when it comes to like decisions or business or whatever it is, I usually go back to the body because it's a really good measure for a good diagnostic tool, you could say, for what's appropriate.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think, over the years, we're always relearning what it is we're teaching. And I've personally found that, what I'm really here to teach is trusting your intuition. And so quite often I'll have experiences where I don't and have to live through the difficult lessons, or where I've just relied on my head and analyzing too much and logic and all what might look good on paper, even though I have this feeling of there's a reservation, or trusting in it someone else's wisdom instead of, tuning into my own. And yeah, it was quite a recent experience where I was just brought back to my body. And even it was through a therapist that I saw, because I think healers heal yourself. We always need to go and get support from others, especially when life becomes challenging. And she actually took me through a journey of visiting different conversations that I've had with different people. And I could feel the body's response, even retrospectively. So going back to maybe a difficult conversation and just seeing how quickly the body will give me an instinct and an information. And then likewise, when I'm with friends, that it just feels easy and comfortable and there's no difficult, it's just an openness and a warmth and a love. And I think it's really valuable just to remind healers and light workers and anyone really listening to the podcast just to keep coming back to the body. Because it's funny, I found when I'm stressed, or it's the simple practices that I avoid. I'll go and ask people instead of just tuning in or going back to those writing practices. There's resistance, right? I think it's the ego. It just gets in and makes life more complicated than perhaps it needs to be.
Yeah, and a good way to bypass the ego is the breath, right? So you can come back to doing some deep, conscious breathing, and then land, and then from there ask the question or whatever it is. And, where a lot of people in the, that are the healers or do healing work or body work or things like that, they're very kinesthetic, right? They're very touch-based.
Very sensitive too.
They're very sensitive, right? But it shows up in language, and people go, oh, that feels good. Oh, that feels good. Or I feel I'm in alignment with that. So the word feel, the using language that points to the mode of experiencing the world that they're most attuned to, right? So it can be quite interesting to notice how people talk, so someone's like, say, oh yeah, I really see what you're saying. I get a picture of like myself in this situation. So then they're using visual as the main. Yeah. It's just interesting to see what comes up for people and how they interact with the world. So, and it's a good thing to notice yourself, you can kind of be the observer watching, yourself as if watching a film. And then, noticing what you do. I mean, the biggest insight, I think, for people when they get on their spiritual path, they realize that they're actually the movie director of their lives, and they can play the movie. But you can also replay movies, like old patterns, old ways of being, old stories that we might strongly identify with and say, actually, well, what if the movie was done differently? Yeah. So it's a way of transforming
reprogramming.
Yeah, redo it, like what if my relationship to my parents or even my grandparents, they had everything they needed and they were really resourced and they were like emotionally intelligent and they were fulfilled humans. What would they be like then? And what would I receive then as a child from a parent that was like that? So we're not necessarily, we don't necessarily have to be fixed by the stories of our lives. We can reshape them in our minds, and our body doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
There's ways to reprogram and re-establish a new relationship to our past, which then obviously informs our future, and it informs how we can show up in the world and what we can contribute. And most of these things usually come down to capacity. If we're super overwhelmed, then we don't have a lot of capacity. And then we don't have much to give, right? Because we're just treading water, or we're dealing with stress, or whatever it might be. So, of course, it's important to take stock and look at how you can, elevate and support yourself. And then from that place of surplus, then we could be more accommodating or supportive of other people, But of course, if someone's drowning in the water, you don't ask them to go save somebody. You throw in something to help them, right?
Yeah, that's it. That is, and I think as, a lot of the sensitive people that I work with and students that are, learning and developing, there is always this pattern of self-awareness and self-work that we're doing, as well as being able to hold a space and help others. And I kind of think, for me, there was a breaking down of the ego where I got to a point where the bigger I got and the busier I was, there was more pressure I put on myself to kind of lead this, humble life where I was putting pressure on myself to be spiritual. And I must admit, there was kind of a breaking through where I came to an understanding that we're also just the little human being, doing the best we can with all that we are. And I've kind of found that there's a real vulnerability in being aware of the human nature and knowing that there could be moments of brilliance and, pure connection to that greater part of us, or the big I am versus the little I am. But I wonder as you've seen and taught, or kind of been around thousands of practitioners over the years, is there any one kind of pattern that you've seen emerge from people that do really succeed in the industry, that kind of holds them over that test of time, I guess, that would benefit the listeners?
I think the people I've seen do this well and actually expand capacity and reach a lot of people, they're generally not there from a place of self-interest. They're actually genuinely there from a place of, how can I be of service to others? So their contribution being a significant pillar. And they're also people that are very attuned to being 100% responsible for all their joy and all their misfortune, everything, right? So they're generally very good at ownership and responsibility. They take account of the challenges. The people who stay small, I think, are usually playing the victim game or the blame game or the one day win game and so forth. Yeah. So rather than just seeing every moment as opportunity and potential possibility, living through the lens of curiosity.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know the story of you or other, and it'd be foolish of me to think that I might know, because it's your story, right? So again, and often we get very consumed by the ideas that, they're thinking this or that about me. And actually, most people are just thinking about themselves most of the time, right?
Yeah. I remember listening to Oprah Winfrey. She was saying that no matter how successful people were that they interviewed, 99% of them would say at the end, was that okay? Because there's always this self-reflection, isn't it? Or, we tend to think, think a lot about how we're perceived in the world. And
exactly. We need others usually too, right? We get feedback as our barometer. So when people say, "Oh, was that okay?" It's maybe not coming from insecurity. It's just to check, where it's at and how to expand. Because I can say something with the best intentions, and the person coming through their filter or their lens, they're like, whoa, that was really full on. And I'm like, wow, I thought it was being like super nice.
Yeah, I thought I was being really genuine.
Exactly. So we don't know, because people are viewing reality through their lens. It's like putting a lens over a camera. It changes the way it looks. And so again, I tend to approach life and people or interactions from this place of curiosity, right? And when I get good feedback, what does that do? That it helps in, it helps cultivate confidence in life, confidence in ourselves. But the thing that precedes confidence is actually courage, because most
Yes,
if
agree.
we don't take the leap, if we don't take the risk of being seen, the risk of,
Failing.
being a fool or
Yeah. Or
uh,
being criticized, like
yeah, yeah,
especially in the social media world, it's
yeah,
I think it's not really talked about a lot, the courage that it takes. And also I think taking action. I've found that taking small action steps has kind of led to my success, and not thinking too far ahead. Like I know when I was writing my book, I put a picture up of me being interviewed by Oprah on my like vision board.
yeah,
And I'm like, and then I'd sit down to write and it was like too big. And I was wondering why. I just kept feeling there's not good enough coming up. And then I looked at it, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, that's
yeah,
such a big goal. And I ended up taking it down. And then I just thought, let my message just reach one person, or let that be enough. And as soon as or let it just be me healing myself through my journey and through telling my story, that as soon as I simplified, the goal in my own mind, it became easier. And I found that, just one step at a time
Mhm.
allows us, we kind of need to hold both as well. So,
Yeah. There's something in, the stretch and in pushing just that
hmm
comfort level. And then there's a
Yeah.
point where it's like, it's so
But
fast.
how much?
Your ego's like, come on, who are you?
That's
Sometimes,
important too, isn't it? It levels
yeah,
us.
yeah,
I always think that, we get into humility, and then something will boost our confidence, and we'll start to fluff up our chest a little bit. And then if we get a little bit too egoic, something will come and knock us back down off our perch. And I think life has a way of leveling us out, which I think is
yeah.
a good thing, right?
And I think it also speaks to like one's upper limit, and that's usually linked
Yeah.
to self-love, self-worth, am I enough?
Mm, mm.
And again, identification outside, will the others love, appreciate, see me, all those things, So it's
Yeah.
usually, um,
Mm.
as we grow, we're going to hit those growing pains where we hit our upper limit, and they go, okay, do I be courageous now and push forward, with best, intention and so
Yes. Yeah.
to get a better result, right? Or do I
Mm.
play it safe? Do I play small? Or do I, not take responsibility for whatever calamities,
Yeah. Yeah, I
because,
remember
you know,
my Reiki master, that was one of the first things she taught me actually, was self-responsibility. And I remember, coming to her and I'd had an argument with someone. I was like, oh, she made me feel this and she made me feel that. And really just in that drama and she's just like, and who's holding that right now? And it was such a powerful lesson, because it did just break me out of that victimhood. And it's not to say I didn't go back there, because I did. I certainly have, as is, the life lessons. But yeah, again, that's empowering when we come back to what we can, um, create and be aware of in terms of that responsibility. Totally agree with you there, Lawrence.
yeah,
Um, I do want to touch on, I've been watching some of your socials, and as part of the research for the podcast, listening to some of the interviews that you've done.
yeah,
And I do just want to say that there is a real authenticity that comes through, and a genuine care for people that you're speaking with and speaking to. So I just wanted to say that, because it's nice. It's nice when you can, feel that genuine care and compassion. And as, I've known you for years, but we haven't engaged personally much. So this is a beautiful thing about podcasts, isn't it? It allows people a window into humanity a bit more than perhaps we might experience from the outside, or just from, the limited contact we have. So thank you for that, first of all. And I did see that you had recently shared experience with Sir Richard Branson.
yeah.
And I thought, what was that like? And what was some of the things you learned from him on that journey? Because that must have been wild to meet him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a very gracious gentleman, I'd say. And
Yeah.
yeah. So what stood out to me about him is he's very curious about people, and he's also very
Okay.
present with people. So he
Such a gift.
he really just sits and just like, oh, he's really interested, like genuinely. So I think
Mm.
he has quite, presence and an ability to really engage. Because, sometimes you talk to people and they're kind of like half here and half somewhere else, And
Mhm.
so I think experiencing someone with their presence so dialed in as him was great. And yeah, he's just really about like, what's the legacy, what's the impact? He's doesn't really need to make any more money. It's more about, well, how do I contribute? So most of the stuff I saw with him when I was on Necker Island with him, he was talking with his CEO who runs all the Virgin Group companies, and they were like, oh, okay, we've got this much here. We're going to allocate that to this, reef project, and this one's for the oceans. And, so pretty much all the conversations were about Virgin Unite and contribution. And obviously,
it's incredible.
Day-to-day operations of all the different things, but I mean, but Richard's just this amazing entrepreneur, right? And been totally. For so many people. But it's nice to, you meet someone like that who you idolize. And at the same time, it's just, again, a normal human being. He's a granddad, and he's a, bit of a radical guy. Very much into his health and biohacking, and he outpaced most people on mountain bikes in the morning, going for a morning ride, and no one could keep up with him. He's 76.
That's amazing.
I let him feed me at chess. Very kind of me. Yeah.
Very nice.
He just
huffing and puffing behind him.
No, so he was great. I think the main thing too, though, people who are like famous or celebrities and whatnot, is just treat them normally. Don't try, don't edify them and put on a persona. Just be authentic.
It's a little bit hard not to with him, and it's just what he's created in the world, isn't it? It's not a usual experience. I would imagine that would be quite hard not to get a little bit, I don't know. I was speechless around him.
I was just sort of cheeky with him and just talked to him like a more guy, okay. Right? And
that's probably what he would appreciate as well, because I guess you just want people to be real and.
And it was funny. We were like, my partner and I were there, and we're one of the couple of Australians on the island at the time. And he goes, oh yeah, Virgin, airlines. And he's like, oh, you could obviously fly Virgin all the time. And I said, oh yeah, sometimes. And he goes, all right, somebody remove these people, have them taken off, as a joke. So, I think, approaching life with a degree of levity and humor and joy, and, and being a bit, cheeky, which he is as well, right? Just be real, and then, people can relax. I've been around, fortunate to be around some, very high level spiritual masters and teachers and stuff as well. And obviously people go with a level of reverence and respect, but be yourself.
Be yourself. Yeah.
If you see people, sort of bowing down and,
it must make it awkward for them as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And I've witnessed that, and you can just see them going like, oh God, or like, oh, or no, please don't do that. Just be yourself. Of course. Yeah. So any of these teachers that are really authentic and genuine, they are like, and they're pretending to be something else, then it becomes actually pretty obvious.
And doesn't the body know it? And it's very, very easily evident, I think. A lot of the healers that I teach tend to be a little bit hard on themselves, and they tend to struggle with self-belief is kind of a pattern that I've seen emerging. And I guess from my experience, the ones that succeed are the ones that get out there and do it and have that courage and take action. So is there any words of wisdom that you can share that might make that journey a little bit easier, or anything that you can kind of say to people that might be just sitting on the fence or just going, one day when, that might just help them to realize, the world needs them.
Yeah. So, I mean, first I'd say begin it right now. Like, don't go, this afternoon or tomorrow or next week or next year, or wait for the perfect conditions, because there is never.
Don't exist.
People say, when is the best time, to have a child? There's never a time.
No,
right?
You can never afford them, so you might as well just start.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes people go like, when I've made a certain amount of money, then I'll go and get myself into a relationship because I can provide, or whatever it is, So I think, stay messy, be authentic, and just take action, and you're going to mess up, and that's expected, and that's good, actually. So I think find all the errors and the mistakes, and then move through them quickly, and obviously try not to repeat the same mistakes over and over, because that would be stupid. But
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
people do that because they need the lesson, right? But
Yeah.
other people are like, okay, I'll learn from that, and maybe I'll do
Do
it.
what you need to do to fix it, make it
Exactly.
right, apologize if you need to apologize, and then move forward. Yeah. And I think sometimes it's that people beat themselves up a little bit too much and hang over what they've done or where they've gone wrong. And I think that is, great advice, just to accept it, accept the humanity of it, that we all make mistakes. And
Yeah.
it's also, I don't think there's ever an entrepreneur that's been successful that hasn't had a lot of, mistakes in their past, because, I just think you're not trying hard enough if you haven't
Yeah.
fallen on your face a few
Oh,
times.
for sure. You want to be good at forgiving yourself and be quick to forgive others, and just keep going, keep moving. And I think entrepreneurs that really go forward have a certain level of grit and determination just to kind of keep going.
Yeah.
And
Bit of
sometimes,
obsession over their craft.
yeah, exactly. You got to just kind of
Been
keep.
accused of that a few times by my husband. He's
Yeah,
like, you're working too much. I'm like, but I love it. I have to stop
Well,
working.
I think it's a great quality because it's
Yeah.
if you love something, then you work and move towards it with your heart and
Whole
mind.
heart. Yeah.
And yes, of course, we'll make mistakes, and that's a beautiful thing too. So there's a lot to be learned. We gain humility, we gain new knowledge every time. It's this idea that fail fast and frequently.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and keep striving, and do it with kindness and curiosity, and be compassionate to yourself and others. And I think that's pretty good medicine. And notice when you're getting caught up or you're getting dramatic unnecessarily.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just go like, okay, well, I don't need to do that. And I think being forgiving is also quite good to ourselves and others. If we don't forgive somebody else, then we're actually hurting ourselves and them. So we can at least extend that kindness towards them and ourselves. And, then we don't have to kind of keep repeating similar patterns,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know with the Reiki philosophy, we come back to gratitude as an antidote to anger and worry. I remember I'd been teaching Reiki for years and came across a great book. I can't think of his name right now, but he told me, the antidote for anger and worry was actually in the Reiki principles.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, that's so amazing that there's such depth in the principles that, this is what it's like when we live it and we live through it. So coming back to a gratitude practice, is it something that you still use to this day, or what is it that you're grateful for in your life right now, Lawrence?
Look, I'd say my family and friends and the people, also grateful to the wonderful teachers I've had the privilege to spend time with and be with, and mentors as well. So, I think, I'm on sort of the other side of 50 now. So I'm, really.
Yeah, I'm there next year.
Yeah, there you go, thinking, okay, what's legacy look like? What's
Yeah.
those questions start to get more exciting, because it's like, well, what can I give back? How can I, I've been so heavily mentored my whole life, and now, younger people are going, hey, would you mentor me? And I don't formally do it, but, there are people I help out here and there, because it's like I've been fortunate to have such great support. So of course it's great to give that back as well from a place of hopefully wisdom, and it's useful, right? So
Definitely.
yeah, so I think gratitude is a good practice anyway, and it's a good thing to do before you go to sleep at night, is to think about, well, what, we can lay there and lament all the ways that we stuffed up, or we can lay there and go, what have I got that's rich in my life? What can I be thankful for? And then we could wake up the next morning going like, what can I give?
Yeah, beautiful. How can I serve? How can I help?
When I put my daughter to bed, she's 7, and I said, okay, what were the great things about today? What were the best things? So we kind of we think about what was all the cool stuff we did.
Yeah.
She always goes, because I've taught her this, I say, and we did this, we did that, and right now, so I always like, because now is the gift, now's the presence, and look at this. Yeah, so I think there's children are a great reflection, I think, of possibility, when they're in that sense of wonderment.
It's a beautiful innocent state, isn't it? Children
yeah.
just walk into the world with just this hopefulness, and then it's beautiful to keep that and to be in that space with them. I think that's one of the gifts of being parents, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I asked this incredible Advaita Vedanta master, like someone completely, I think, no ego, completely awake. And I said, what's it like being you? And he said, I'm just like a child running naked down the beach.
Just having fun with life.
Yeah, he's in the state of less like, the best time. And that's just how he is all the time. And he's like this child in this state of wonderment all the time.
Isn't that amazing?
Everything's like, it's like kids watching fireworks in the sky.
And seeing everything for the first time with that sense.
Yeah.
Everything's appreciated. Yeah. I remember having a moment in a healing center I was in where, we had the privilege of meeting with, a very reverend man, and he came in and he'd come from India and he was coming for a visit, and there was something weird about the energy that they bring into a space. Like the phone stopped ringing. There was this dynamic energy that happened that you can't put your finger on. But the one thing I remembered from the conversation was how much we all laughed. Like we all just sat there and we were you're right about that presence. They bring an element of presence that just draws you in, and it's magnetic, isn't it? And it's so beautiful. And I think our spiritual practices teach us that too. It teaches us to come back into connection, with something greater than us. And anytime we get to tap into that channeled state or that place that's so divine, don't you just taste it and just want more?
It's
just
like
seeing that possibility and to experience it when we can.
Good drugs that are highly addictive are very good for you, right?
And natural, right?
And that's right,
not synthetic.
Exactly right. So this is the opportunity that's there all the time. Actually, it's just a matter of choosing it as a state or practicing it until it becomes so normal for you. My Buddhist master, he used to say, just keep putting the face of the Buddha on, and eventually you can't.
You'll become it.
It becomes intertwined with your skin, and then you are that experience of aha and awake and this
I love that
joy. So. And that's the thing. It's another telltale sign of someone who's pretty switched on is they're generally very joyful too.
Yeah.
They're humorous, and they,
it's a lightness.
You look at life, it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
So it's like, well, how can you not laugh? And the absurdity of life, right?
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? I know you have some big plans. You're the producer of The New Woo. Tell us what projects you're working on or what you would like people to hear about, Lawrence.
Yeah, well, we're bringing out this film which showcases all of the world's leading experts in the wellness space, and privileged to get to hang out with these people as well, having massive impact in the world. Yeah, so we're doing that, and we're expanding our horizons with IICT and offering
moving into America.
Global accreditation and expanding all those offerings and different directories and new things that we're spearheading for the company, and book number 10 in the works, and things like that. So busy. But again, all these projects are really coming from that space. Like what you said, if it just helps one person, then I've done a good job. You know what I mean? So I don't know how far reaching it will be. Hopefully it impacts, millions of people, but, and that's certainly the intention, but it's also about, just authentically showing up and, doing what we can to be a positive contribution in the world, and ultimately to help, raise the credibility, the standards across the industry. So more people are trusted, and then they want to, dip their toes in the water and see how it fits for them, and it's not a one size fits all. It's a very unique thing.
Yeah, and I think having so many different therapies and trainings all in the one modality makes it so much easier, for us to have that support from IICT, but also the credibility and the community. And so what's your new book going to be about? Have you decided, or are you writing and figuring it out as you go?
Oh no, there's a few in the works, but the next one will be called The New Woo, which will take transcripts from the interviews from the documentary and so forth, and we put them in book form as well. So everyone in the film has a chapter in the book, so it might be a big book. And then other ones around best business, running a wellness practice in a meaningful way and having big impact. So I've got fair bit to say about that subject. So yeah,
Yes,
that's
I bet.
the one after that that I'm working on. So yeah, again, it's about reaching people through various mediums, and whether it's, a podcast or an interview or an article or a this or a that, a film, or a conversation when we meet someone in the street, like whatever it is, like I just think that, being kind and exhibiting generosity and curiosity is all for free, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
cost anything.
And it's
Yeah.
also inspiring all of us as well. So thank you, because I have noticed that you've come out from behind the company now and you're more visual than I've seen you be before, and it's fantastic. So it's nice because, when we do step out in front of the company, people get to see and know us more. So not always easy, right? Sometimes we would rather stay a little hidden, but it's been lovely to chat with you today, Lawrence, and I will pop all your details. Do you want to just let everyone know your website and how they can get in contact with you?
Yep. So it's lawrenceellyard.com is the website. And I do respond to almost all my messages on Instagram. So it's Lawrence_Ellyard. So if people want to reach out on socials or on the website, then I'm happy to interact and so forth. I still very much believe in the personal sort of one-to-one connection. It's really rich and it's good for folks, right? So
Absolutely.
as we can do that. I'm not that famous where I don't have time to not connect to people. So it's good to still do it while we can, right?
While you can, absolutely.
Happy to, connect with anyone who hears this and wants to reach out.
Well, there you go. Take him up on that offer and get in touch with Lawrence before things do change. All right. Thanks again, Lawrence, for your time today. It's been amazing. And if you want to learn more about, creating an awesome business in the spiritual world and in the wellness industry, connect with us both and we'll catch up with you on the next episode of Connecting to Spirit. I'm host Lisa Brandis. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Ciao.
I just wanted to say thanks for listening today. We know there are a lot of podcasts out there and you took time out of your day to dive into this episode, and I want to say thank you so much. If you'd like to learn how to become a powerful psychic healer and spiritual teacher, head on over to intuitivereiki.online and you can get started by taking my free quiz and discover your unique psychic gifts. Plus, there's heaps of course information and you'll access a really great bunch of really helpful tools to support you on your path. We really want to see you build a soul-led practice that creates abundance, builds confidence, and the freedom to serve in the way you were born to. Remember, the world needs your powerful and unique teaching. I'll see you in the next episode.